Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm sorry that I have such a terrible voice. I'm a little under the weather. Good thing
I love your background. That's adorable.
Thank you. I can send it to you.
I would love it. That's great.
Library pictures book pictures that I picked up that I was like, yeah, I like this as a background.
I'm going to be off camera just when I'm eating. I try to be polite, but it's lunchtime, so.
Please, go ahead. No worries.
If you see me popping off and on, that's just Hillary taking gigantic bite of food.
Enjoy. Ah, I see. Ariane says the same thing. She has bad Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Happens to lots of people.
Yeah. Oh. Hello, Nancy. Hello, Kelly. My apologies for my raspy voice.
Oh, I don't have Nancy on here yet, but we're getting her.
Oh, hi.
Hello.
Thank you for your help. Hi, Kelly.
Hello. Okay, Mom. I'll be right back in a minute. I'm gonna hopefully shut some dogs out so they don't bark. And a cat too. You can see the cat right there.
Oh yeah. Oh, I see two cats.
They're coming. It's two of them. Okay.
That's funny. Yay. Louise. We have Nisha.
Hello, I'm here.
Hi, no worries. I know everyone's eating and stuff. Hi, Louise. Happy New Year.
Yes.
Hi, Nancy.
Huh? Yeah, right there.
Yeah, and we see her too. She should be seeing herself too.
Okay. So how's everybody?
Pretty good. Good. Okay. And there's Nancy. Nancy Harry. Hello. Oh, we can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
No.
Other
Nancy Harry.
Oh.
You're still off. Your audio's still off.
Many buttons to unpush, but now they're all pushed.
Yay. And I'm recording this meeting. Sherry and Lynette both can't make it. So, and my apologies. I hope my voice lasts for the entirety of the meeting.
Oh my goodness, what's going on there?
I have no idea. I think it's a head cold. I feel fine, but I'm a little warm and I'm glad I set this up as a virtual meeting because you would not want to be around me right now.
All right. Well, do you want to go ahead or did you want to wait? What's your pleasure?
Oh, it's just now 12 o'clock. Maybe we give it 2 more minutes. So all of you can get some bites of food in. I'll try and take some more of this hot tea with lemon.
You know, there have been studies that show honey is at least as effective, if not more, than cough suppressants.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm.
I've been resisting the honey because I'm on a diet right now. You know,
when you're feeling bad, you gotta just take care of yourself first. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I tried the lemon. You know.
Yeah.
You know, my favorite singer, he's dead now, but Luciano Pavarotti always had some lemon tea before he was killed.
My mom is a big believer in the throat coat tea. We have boxes and boxes of it.
Throat coat. Yeah, mine is some lovingly self-imported German stuff.
Self-imported.
You know, meaning a little suitcase stuffed in there.
Oh, I'm well aware of the self-import life.
When you travel abroad, you buy whatever you can to take home.
Oh, yeah. What sort of stuff would you bring back from India?
Well, we just finished this really great honey my mom had from India, and we're already talking about, Arian saying in the chat that our mom comes back with suitcases full of snacks. That's basically what it is. But we'll also buy clothing and a lot of jewelry. We're really bad about buying loads of jewelry.
I could see that. Yeah, I'm sure they have some really cool stuff over there. I think Arian said her mom brings back dried fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just comes she'll have one of those huge suitcases, and half of it is fun family snacks, and then the other half is just her huge arrangement of different kinds of dried fish. I guess it also helps them from not wanting to open the bag. I don't know, but she has a whole process.
Yeah, that'll pass customs.
Is she smuggling that in?
Go
or is
ahead.
that allowed?
You're good.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but she does it every time.
Wow, she's got it down. I should get some tips from her.
One of the novels I just read, they were smuggling guns early in the Revolution in a covered wagon, and they buried it in bat guano and fertilizer.
Oh.
So again, so that the customs would open one barrel and be like, "We're done, go away."
Yeah. Sounds like it worked.
I did in the novel.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think Andrea said that she would join too, but I haven't seen her yet. But if you wanted to, we could get started.
Okay, so let's see. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think we have a quorum. Yeah, we maybe even better than a quorum. So I'm calling this meeting to order. And I don't know if you've had a chance to look over the minutes. They're actually the November minutes, but that's the first item on the agenda.
And I can try and pull those up. Files. Why is this being?
You don't have that.
Basic.
You do not have that. Oh, that's one that machine gave up. Yeah, you have everything else.
I'm trying to find something happened here on my Zoom on the back end, and I can no longer find the files here. It's looking all funky.
I could probably show it if you can't. You want me to try to share my screen?
Yes, I just set it up so that you can.
Let's see. Oh, wait a second. Give me a moment. Okay. Oh, yeah. Now let me share my screen. And then see if I can get this moved over.
Okay.
Okay. Are you folks looking at the minutes?
Yep.
The treasurer's report through A. It's about all you can see right now. Let me know when you'd like me to scroll down.
You can zoom in. Yeah. Camera. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to scroll down a little more, but stop me if I'm going too fast.
Kind of hard for me to do that on the screen.
Ready for the librarian's report in these minutes? If not, tell me if I'm going too fast. I can easily back up.
Feels so long ago. It's so funny.
Yeah, it was back in November.
Right?
Before Christmas. It was right after Thanksgiving, actually, right? Or maybe it was before Thanksgiving.
It was right. The
Let's
holiday
go
party
take a look and see.
was right after.
November 15th. Does anyone need this document any longer? Okay, I'm going to stop the share.
All right.
And is there a motion to accept those minutes?
I can move to accept the minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Is there any discussion about the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? I believe the minutes have passed. So let's move on to the treasurer's report. Aviv?
Okay. Well, let's see now. What you have before you is our budget, projected, income and expenses. They're estimates, best as we can figure it at this point, but that is, I don't know if we can share that on the screen.
You want me to share again? Or
oh
Sorry,
yeah,
I'm
that would
trying
be
to-
great if we can just
Okay,
see
Julia.
it's the
Can you
it's
see
right
it?
after our minutes.
Can you see
minute
it?
recap.
Yep.
There it is.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So again, these are just estimates or guesstimates. And as you can see, we figure grants for 2022 will come in around 78,700. Unrestricted income, that also includes grants without any conditions placed on them, and all other donations. That's at 267,500. So all told, that's if you add up those two numbers, our income stream is going to be about, at least what's coming in, we're estimating about 346,000, give or take. Again, just we're estimating. It's flying by the seat of our pants, right? We don't know exactly, especially in a pandemic year, how this will, turn out. But that's what we're hoping. Our program expenses down below. I think we did this initially, and there are a few slight revisions, but the program expenses there, let's assume that is that also includes we're a little behind. So we still owe the library Q3 and the Q4 from last year, those expenditures, okay, and that was roughly let's 61,899 a pop. So that should be included in there, the 149,000, and then also our commitment to the library this year. So more or less, let's say if you're rounding 250 for program expenses, I think the math kind of works out there, 250,000. And then our, fixed overhead, which we, have a little control over. We sort of know what our fixed expenses are. I think we just bumped that up to an even 170. When you'll see the recap after this, but here it's a more exact figure at the time. So all told, you look at the income, you look at the expenses, blah, blah, blah. If you scroll to the bottom, you can see that there's a little bit of the shortfall. And as we know, shortfalls usually means that we're tapping our reserves, right? So that's, in a nutshell, that's what that means. It's a little bit less than the year before. The year before we really took a beating on that, but this year, not as bad as the year before, if that's, silver lining. So that's a summary of the current our projected operations. Now, when we met for our finance committee, we discussed a number of things. One of which was liquidity, right? Because we're tapping into reserves, and to meet expenses as they come due, we got to have reserves available. So our main concern when we met was, hey, do we have readily available funds, whether it be, cash in a bank account or even money market accounts in our Merrill Lynch, because that's fairly, convertible. You can quickly turn that around. We do have other investments in equity. To be honest with you, we're not exactly sure what those, we don't know if we have access to it currently. A lot of it is in stocks and bonds. There's a lot of realization, there's a lot of appreciation. There's about $60,000 of appreciation in this other Merrill Lynch account. So we've been doing fairly well. Is it the most liquid? No. So for now, we sort of put that Merrill Lynch account aside for our liquidity needs and just looked at our cash and money market funds. So if we need to tap into that as part of our reserve, we have that. So what Julia put together here is a nice little recap of what we actually discussed in our finance committee. And the overriding concern was liquidity. Okay, can we keep going the way we have? And do we need to make a mid-course correction? And so the top part there, sorry.
Sorry.
About that. Yeah. So what we did first is we tried to figure out, okay, for 2022, what funds are really needed. Let's look at everything. Kind of a holistic, complete approach. Anything that's due, whether it's from year before, this year, 10 years from now, who cares? It's just, if we're going to have to cut a check this year, that's cash outflow. Let's look at that so we don't have any surprises. So we identified the Q3 and Q4 from the library that we still, we're a little behind. So that's the first item you see there. That's for the home. That was the commitment we made in 2021, which is yet to be dispersed. And so that's the 120,583. That's coming up. I like the squiggly lines there. And then we have, so yeah, those are the outstanding Q3 and Q4 that you see there. And then, I'm sorry, I skipped the top one. That is in light of our conversation and, and based on our reserves and our forecasts and everything, we thought it may be prudent this year because Hillary, she was good enough to give us options, which was great. She gave us option A, option B, option C. There was like the high tier, if you want to go all out. Then there was like this mid tier, middle of the road. And then there was a lowest tier, like almost like bare bones. And, in light of our finances and what we were looking at, unfortunately, it's not all gloom and doom, but we felt like at this stage, we probably could only commit to the bare bones. And if we could, if the year improves down the ways, we could throttle it up. But for now, given our reserves and everything else, we are willing to commit 100% to the bare bones, and then it's kind of wait and see deal for everything else. So that's where the 120 comes from. We discussed the Q3, Q4. That's the second line item, and then there's also another disbursement that's still hanging out there, and that's the San Lucas grant. We received the money. Might have been last year, maybe even the year before. That's restricted and.
Yeah, last year, November.
Last year, November.
Wait a minute. This is round 2, San Lucas, right?
Yes.
So 2021 November is when you received it.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, I wanted to make sure you knew you'd given us the first one. This is.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Yes. We're not 3 years behind. We're only 1 year.
No. Okay, got it.
Yes.
So there is the 60. So these are, and then of course we have our and we also have our operating expenses, which is our overhead, fixed overhead. That can't be helped. That's the last item you see here there for 170,000. So that is a grand total, if you add all of those up, of 481,000. Okay, so those are going to be, as far as we can figure, that's going to be our total cash out the door, right, before year end. Okay, so now the question is, okay, now we need to kind of scramble and try to figure out how we can make this happen. So what do we know? Well, we know for our forecast that we did here, we know that we're going to get restricted income, or grants essentially, of 78,700, we said, and then unrestricted other unrestricted income of 267. So about 346,000. You could see that at the very bottom there, right? I'm sorry, I'm jumping around, but the 300, you see projected income for 2022, 346,200. Okay. Okay. So that's income coming in, revenue coming in, and then we know what our total money going out is, 481. So we know that we're going to have this deficit of 135,681. I don't know if you all can see that. Yeah, right there. I love the arrows. This is great. That's really helpful. So that has to, I mean, something's got to give. So that's going to have to come out of reserves. Okay. So we've got to tap into, unless, again, these are projections. We may have a stellar year. We just don't know it yet. But if we stay the course, then we're looking at a deficit of 135,000. So to make up that deficit, what do we know? I mean, we look to our cash accounts, we look to our liquid funds, because it's going to have to come out of there, right? And so we took a hard look at our funds, and we know that we have, you can see it up on top there, we have 197,829, if you can see that. These are restricted funds, okay? It's sitting in an account, but again, these are restricted. So that can go towards, the Q3 and Q4 that we're behind on, right? That can probably go for the San Lucas grant. That can go for library expenditures, but it may not be able to go towards our overhead, but we could definitely tap into that for library expenditures. So we have that to fall back on. We also have $32,000 in our checking, or we used to have. This thing is in a state of flux. Like when we did the snapshot, it was 32. I couldn't tell you what it is today, right? Because it bounces up and down depending on our operating expenses. But let's call it 32,000. So we have that. Again, these are all our reserves, essentially, the 32. And then we have a Merrill Lynch account, and it's all liquid money market funds of 130. So basically, our reserves are the 359,829. So that deficit's going to come from reserves. And so by the end of the year, those reserves are going to go down a little more. But it's important to discuss this, because we're kind of on this downward trend, right? And so that's why we kind of pumped the brakes a little bit this year. And we decided to be we didn't want to throw caution to the wind, because we knew that our reserves are diminishing, and we wanted to play it safe. So that's why we committed to which I guess what you call
I call it the bare bones request.
Yeah. Now again, if we can replenish by the end of the year, if we get something in that's higher than what we expected, or we get something like another request, which would be really nice, then we obviously will reassess. And but that's kind of what we're looking at. There is one other Merrill Lynch account, like I said, that we don't know much about it. We have to do a little more research, but that one is still also we could tap into for reserve, and that would really be for a rainy day if we absolutely need it. But that would entail converting all these high performing, stocks and mutual funds into cash. And we really we want to try to avoid that, because it's been performing so well. So, why rock the boat? So we'll try to keep that going and let that grow as much as possible. So that's kind of the lowdown. Any questions? And you know, we still need the only tricky part is because we basically have two buckets. You know, we have as we're writing checks, you know, we have stuff that's coming out of restricted, and we have stuff that must come out of unrestricted funds. So and there is a difference. So we have to earmark that or pigeon that into where it needs to go. So sometimes, you know, if our cash is dangerously low and we have a big check, you know, we may need to do the shuffle, you know, move stuff around, even just temporarily, which is why I think it's important to have these committee meetings once a quarter now, just to kind of see what's around the corner and anticipate, you know, if we have any big disbursements, and how do we make that happen? You know, if we have to shift accounts around, we'll just have to do that. Yeah, so that's I believe that's kind of where we are. That's what we discussed in our finance committee meeting, and now we're just sharing what took place there and what we discussed.
I have a question.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Aviv.
Yeah.
Regarding the spreadsheet that you showed before, after the last column, there are some sort of notes there, and I'm just trying to learn what is the meaning of the note that says includes 8990, or there are other ones that
I can answer that. I can answer that, Louise.
Just to learn.
So, those numbers are actually showing up on our balance sheet. That is how quick we have all these different QuickBooks categories.
Oh, okay.
And so whenever I put this budget together, sometimes it makes sense to put more than one category together under these names. So supplies has we have one that's called supplies and one that's called something similar. And so to make it easier and keep it all in the same sort of style category, I just make these notes so that I remember for next year, whenever I put the budget, you know, put all the numbers in there, that I do it consistently in the same manner.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. It's just a sort of code that you implemented.
Yes.
Okay.
I can even try and pull it up and show it to you.
No, that's fine. I'm just wanting to know what those numbers are.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm glad Julie answered that question, because I couldn't have answered it. Good question. Thanks.
Especially with expecting such a large deficit this year, I know we had some trouble with our online donation portal.
Yeah.
And I know it's still down. Might that be something that it's worth, you know, fixing, or like hiring someone to fix? Because I know, you know, I don't think that would be necessarily our big pull, especially not if it's been down for a while. People probably aren't going back there very often, but it could be a way to at least creep back up. And it's with Words and Wine being like semi-virtual, semi-not, we can sort of be like, hey, if you can't come, here's a place to donate easily. Also just an easy way to share and make pushes, I think, randomly.
Yeah, we should be able to get that up fairly quickly. I've already discussed this with Courtney actually last week. She is in the process of going on behind the scenes and working on the website. And I think she's actually on the call. So if she wants to say something, she can certainly jump up and say something. Yeah, there's been something with the form, but I figured out an alternative that I think we can stick in there for right now, that we can then capture the donations. No, you're absolutely right about that.
Awesome.
I had a comment and a question, and it's about a very tiny part of the budget, and I don't even know where it fits. But previously, we have given scholarships, the Fran McFadden Scholarship. Yeah. And is there money in here to do that?
I didn't put any money in, but if the board wants to put some money out for a scholarship, then I will certainly add that in there.
I'm not sure how this works, and so probably we'd need a little bit more research, but I just happened to listen to Dan Baldwin from the Community Foundation. He was addressing a luncheon group, and it was a Zoom meeting that I was in on, and he mentioned that when organizations within the Community Foundation post their scholarships, that it goes into almost like a data bank where the applicants will also be entered into any other scholarships for which they qualify. And I thought, wow. So if we had even, I mean, I understand we're in dire times here, but if we just did one $500 scholarship or even one $250 scholarship and found out about how we coordinate that with the Community Foundation. His point was that some small organization, it had the same sort of scholarship we did, and they offered it, but because some of the applicants were referred on other places, actually a whole bunch of people got scholarship money. So I thought that sounded very interesting. And I wonder if you could look into it and if we could, if we could discuss whether or not we can afford, I'd say either $250 or $500 for our usual scholarship, which is for people who volunteer in the libraries, students who volunteer in the libraries.
Nancy, excuse me, what was historically, what was the amount way back in the day? It was like 1,000 that we used to give out for our scholarship? I can't even recall, it's been so long.
We had 500, I think.
Oh, 500 was it?
And then we talked about it and thought, nowadays with $500, you can't really do much. You can barely get maybe one textbook. And so we upped it to 1,000.
I thought, okay. Yeah, because for some reason, 1,000 pops into my head when we talk about these scholarships.
Well, I mean, since we're in tough times, I'm going to propose, and then you folks can tell me what you think, that we put it in as a $500 item with the caveat that we find out about how we can be sure it gets into this system at the Community Foundation.
I think that's a really good idea. I think also offering a scholarship is just another way to get our name out there. And it's also another opportunity for fundraising in a lot of respects, saying like, hey, we do scholarships now and we're trying to bring it back. And some people might see that and actually want to pitch in.
Let's see. So Nisha, would you like to put that in the form of a motion?
I motion that we should go ahead with researching and looking into and pursuing a $500 scholarship.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I second that one.
Okay, is there any discussion about Nisha's motion? Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let me say that again, all opposed? Okay, then I think we've passed that, and it means we'll find a place in the budget. If after the research pans out, we may be looking for $500 in the budget for this year's scholarship.
I can easily reach out to the Community Foundation. Now, I know that they have a program officer that is just focused on scholarships, and I can find out what it takes to get started. My only concern is that while the payout might be $500, they might require that we actually endow a larger amount so that then the money can be granted out from there. But I'll find out.
Yeah, let's find out about that. And Hillary, is there somebody that she should work with if we do try to go forward with it so that we can really get the word out to the libraries?
Well, if it's set up and everything, we can do our social media blasts. We could include it in, anything we set out.
Okay,
so
great.
Yeah.
That sounds great. It's a small point. I don't want to belabor it.
And if it's for a library volunteer, obviously sending it to all the staff and saying, please share this with your working volunteers.
Yeah, and I think that's the way we always did it in the past, but I kind of like Nisha's idea that, it might be something where it was even posted, even though all the people seeing it perhaps couldn't apply, but they would just be aware that it's something else, something else that the foundation's doing. Okay, so
the one that does a lot of the scholarship fund is Christine Dawson over at the Community Foundation.
Okay, good to know.
I can easily reach out to her.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy. So Aviv, here it says present and approve the 2022 organizational budget. So do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, okay, yeah, let's try this on for size. I make a motion for the board to approve the budget for 2022.
Mhm.
Does that work?
Okay, is there, and that would be the budget that we've just been looking at.
The budget that we've just been looking at.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Sure. I'll second that one.
Okay, more discussion about the budget. The only thing I wanted to add, and it was in the fine print, I think, of the last thing that we were looking at, but I just wanted to draw the board's attention to it that, you know, we haven't made the Q3 and Q4 disbursements, and that document mentions that the Finance Committee recommends that we make the Q3 disbursement immediately and then make the Q3 for 2021 and then make the Q4 for 2021, you know, as soon as possible, as we feel it's feasible. And I hope I've got that straight. If not, Aviv or anybody else who was in the Finance Committee meeting can speak to that point.
I hope you can see.
I think the general consensus was, let's get Q3 out there and Q4 as soon as possible. And one of the reasons for that is a better matching of the income and the expenses, because when we have some of these expenses that dribble in a year or two later, you know, that distorts our current year financials. So we do want to try to stay current and stay on that roadmap that we originally put together as best as possible. And by the way, one of our other concerns was if the auditors accrued these expenses already, like the Q3 and Q4, because we've already committed to it. So our big concern was, is it already reflected on our financials? And we did some digging, and no, it is not. When the only time they will expense it on our financials is when the library actually requests it, and that's what triggers it. So it is possible to have a bunching of, you know, 2 years worth all converging in the same year, which is what happened last year. We showed this big loss. I mean, at least on our books. And that's because we had multiple years hitting, you know, all converging in 1 year. So we're trying to avoid it now by trying to stay as current as possible with our commitment. So the Q3 and the Q4, you know, we want to try to clear those out as soon as we can. And I realize, Hillary, you gave us all this great latitude. You know, we have until the end of June, which really helps our cash flow, you know, because that gives us a little time, buys us some time. But, you know, we get lulled into a false sense of security, and we just, you know, we start rest. So I think it's best to try to clear out as much as we can to make room for the new disbursements, the new commitments.
Yeah, for the library, since we're on the July to June, we project ahead and then we report throughout the year. So if we're showing not the expected percentage of donations and grants and stuff coming in, we just have to explain why. And then we revise our projections. So like with your budget just passed, we'll revise our projection for the second half of our fiscal year downward, and then we'll tell them why. And that's okay. It's really the check coming within our fiscal year as we projected it out. And it can come June 30th, you know, as long as we balance out our fiscal year. But whenever is best for you and your books, you know, we can adapt accordingly.
Thank you.
Is there more discussion about this motion to approve the 2022 budget? Okay, then all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All
Aye.
all opposed? Okay, I think we've just passed the 2022 budget. So let's move on to the director's report.
Okay, I've been saving my voice for this more or less. I'm sorry. Okay, I can also try and pull it up for you so that you can see it. Lots has happened since November of last year. So I'm going to try and pull it up here on the screen. I hope you can see it.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Is it coming? Okay, I'm scrolling really fast. Where did it go? Here we go. So lots of grants have been coming in, and which is good. Grant season is in full swing. I'm going to be jumping on Barnett Siegel after this meeting. So we did get the second Sunlight Giving grant for the San Lucas outside landscaping. I'm currently working on the Chapman Foundation grant, and Monterey Peninsula is in the works. We're waiting to hear. Usually they let us know in March, so keep your fingers crossed. The Pebble Beach grant, that's another big one, is also in already. We did get, I applied and already received $15,000 for STEM program activities from Chevron. So that's really helpful. And right now it is just a giant jumping in between different grant applications that are due. So I have a bunch due that are early next month. So we're in the final throes of that. We have Nancy Buck Ransom, Hardin Foundation. So it's the big push right now. It's been so much fun working with Ariane, and she's been doing quite a lot of stuff. She's putting on the final touches so that we can get Luis and Nisha properly orientated for the foundation. And thank you for being so patient with us. She is working on all the volunteer needs that we might or might not have, you know, they might be shifting for the Words and Wine event. So that's going on. And obviously we spent some time at meeting for the annual budget, which we now just discussed. And Courtney has been really busy behind the scenes, and you have a whole document in here with the different versions of our new logo. You can see it has both on there. It says Foundation for Monterey County Free Libraries, but it also has the leap, and the letters are leaping off the page, and it's a book. It's an open book. So it's I'm really excited about that. And she is currently working on getting the website up and ready. I've actually specifically shared the feedback that I received from the personnel committee in regards to the website, so that she has the exact phrasing and knows what we're all looking for. I've gotten more documents. I think this bequest for Carmel Valley is coming. I'm excited for Carmel Valley, but I wish it was for the foundation, given our finances. But it is what it is. So that's coming. And I think we might want to, once there is a physical check that's been produced and stuffed into an account, we might want to look into setting up a joint meeting to help figure out how to how this money should be stewarded. Just kind of bringing that up as an idea. And then we finished the MC Gives campaign. We did pretty well. We did almost as well as we did last year. So you can see here, I try to always pull the same statistics each year. So we kept the same number of donors. We made a little less money, about $4,000 less. We didn't really have a lot of grant funds. We only had $500 of grant funds this year. So actually we made more in donations than in grants. We got 32 new donors, which is a lot less than we got before, but we kept the number of repeat donors the same. And then we had quite a few donors who didn't give last year, but now decided to give again this year. So that was exciting. The anonymous donors stayed the same. So I'm thinking those are all mostly the same too, but I wouldn't know. Because we didn't get grant funds, the average donation amount actually went up to 271 donors. And then I've just kept advertising the same. And so it comes out to, it costs us 6 cents to raise $1 through this campaign, which I think is a very good return on investment. Do you have any questions about this particular one? I have lots more statistics, but I'm trying to keep it, to a digestible minimum.
Wow, this is all useful information. It's amazing that you can extrapolate or get all this information from the donors.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I know in previous years, I actually, I don't know if you remember last year, I had the time to actually look into where our donors lived. And then I kind of was able to do a little bit of background research to find out what professions our donors have. I didn't have a chance to do all of that this year, but there was a lot of the same ones. And so the main professions are actually people in the medical field, people in the educational field, and artists are the three main groups. Oh, and lawyers. Sorry, Kelly. So they all believe in libraries, at least locally. I've also been texting with Ron back and forth, and I'm sure Nancy might have an update here too. So he is still at home. He is going in for his, I think it's called bone marrow transplant, a day before my birthday on February 4th. And he will be living up in Stanford, first at the hospital for another month. And then when he's stable enough, he will be in Palo Alto to be near the hospital for another 3 months. And so I think he's hoping to be coming back to Spreckles around May 2022. I can tell he really enjoys whenever he gets updates. So please feel free to like send him an email. He says he does not have any unread emails in his inbox anymore because he's been able to keep up with it. So anything you would like to share with him. Sometimes I shared a picture from my vacation and he thought that was really fun. So I encourage you to do that. Now this, I think you remember me talking about, this was our really fabulous virtual youth arts festival that we had with Caldecott winner Javaka Steptoe. The kids loved it. It was just, they were so cute. I mean, we also have a bunch of little videos where they show their art. And then this one girl was asking if Javaka could show her how to make a little heart out of the supplies that everyone had picked up. So that was really cute. And I took this from Hillary's report. So as a result of this event, the Marina branch got an uptick in donations. They received a $5,000 and a $10,000 check in December. And the donors apparently specifically said that they were very impressed with what the Marina branch was doing, specifically these types of events. So even though it didn't come into the foundation, it did come into our library system that we helped raise funds through this event. And the kids had a great time. And we have about 200, not that many, about 100 new email addresses of active people that are willing to hear about what's going on in our libraries. Here's another action shot. You see it was quite busy. Lots of stuff going on at the same time. The STEM event, my apologies, that we're helping plan has been pushed back to June 11th because of what's going on with Omicron, because that's going to be a hands-on event where kids have to physically touch stuff. And so we did not feel that was the best idea to have it right now. Arian and I have been doing so much work behind the scenes with Words and Wine, but I'll tell you about that once we get to the committee report. And here is just the selection of all the lovely logos that Courtney has been working on. You know, depending on where you showcase it, you need a different look so that it fits better. So she's made all these lovely different versions of it.
Julia, I think those look great. I wanted to comment on those. I also had a question because in some of the papers that are being prepared, it talks about the LEAP Foundation. And I think that's very confusing unless we are actually planning to change the name of the foundation. And that's why when I look at these images, I like the ones where Foundation for Monterey County Free Libraries is quite prominent because I love the image and the logo LEAP. But my question is, were you planning to change the name of the foundation?
I was actually planning on what's called a DBA. I've already looked into it. So doing business as. I was not going to change the name of the foundation because that's just, you know, we have all this history, but it's just so hard to answer the phone and fill out documents. I mean, it never fits. Try to put Foundation for Monterey County Free Libraries in your Zoom name here. It doesn't fit. So I was going to have it as a DBA, still keeping, you know, our Foundation for Monterey County Free Libraries. But
okay, well, I saw a couple of places where there was a reference to the LEAP Foundation, and I thought that that would be confusing. And so, I like these images. It's like an updating. I mean, we previously had an open book, and this is, you know, a new way of showing it with a nice acronym. I'm all in favor of that, as long as people don't get confused about the name of the foundation.
Okay, I'll make sure to make a note. Well, there's also the plan to actually work out a full rollout of this and not all of a sudden just change the name, but to explain, basically do a COVID report is the wish that I have to, because we haven't really done an annual report since the pandemic started. And so you can't really call it annual because it's been more than a year. But to sort of talk about how the libraries have pivoted in the work that they've done and how we've all been able to, make this work. And part of what the foundation has been doing has been pivoting to a new name. Same commitment. I feel like by having our mission sort of spelled out, library engagement, advocacy, and philanthropy, it's basically also the 3 pillars that we have for our strategic plan, as you wish. So I feel like it's a good starting point for many things, but I agree that it probably needs a little bit of explanation. We can't just spring it on our supporters.
Yeah, and I also would have concern, like if people didn't know that we're called the Foundation for Monterey County Free Libraries and they're just looking at LEAP, then it becomes that usual confusion about, well, which libraries are you talking about? In other words, if I only saw LEAP and I saw what each letter stood for, I'd think, oh, well, then they help the Monterey Library and they, they help the Pacific Grove Library. Oh, that's great. So I just see a lot of room for confusion if you use that without linking it to Foundation for Monterey County Free Libraries.
Oh, look down here. We're actually linking it to MCFL. So that's going to be one of our new websites. It's LEAP for MCFL. So
right, and I think that's great.
Okay. So do you have any specific? So you want to make sure that we always keep the name in there as well?
I think it should be prominently displayed, because if it's not, it seems to me there's a lot of room for confusion.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. Would you be okay with me in the future starting to answer the phone with LEAP though?
Well, I don't know. Like, how will it be listed? How will they have known how to dial it?
The numbers won't change.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know, because, we've always had this problem, even before, when we were only called the Foundation for Monterey County Free Libraries. There was confusion about which libraries we represented and tried to help. So I am concerned about just using that acronym without linking it to Foundation for Monterey County Free Libraries.
Okay.
Could we, I'm just curious, with these logos, could we make the fonts bigger for the Monterey County Free Library so that sticks out and more front and center, and then the LEAP can take a secondary role? I don't know visually if that'll avoid some of that confusion, like the LEAP is just an offshoot of the foundation, just sometimes just visually getting I don't know, and just kind of rearranging. And I don't know if it's easier said than done. But
no, Aviv, I agree with you. And I think the one that we see on top is closer to what I think you and I are talking about, because the one on the top, Foundation for Monterey County Free Libraries. Well, now it's sort of in the middle.
Oh, sorry. So I'm just going to highlight it. This one.
That one, yeah.
Got it.
I like that one the best.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe the LEAP we can make a little, maybe shrink it just a little. I mean, just so, because right now it almost eclipses, and again, it's just a visual representation. If we can somehow get the LEAP to be maybe diagonally and a little smaller, so it kind of trails off from the foundation font, so you could see it as almost like an afterthought, versus the the star attraction, because it does. I mean, sometimes visually it's just what people see or what they interpret when they look at something.
Yeah. Okay. Courtney, I hope you're hearing this.
We've become so well known as Foundation for Monterey County Free Libraries. We want to keep that up front.
That makes sense. Okay. I've definitely written this down in case Courtney is not hearing it. I know she's on the call, but she might not be able to answer right now.
Okay.
But so you want in this particular one, we want to make sure that the LEAP part is smaller and the other part is bigger so that there is no confusion.
Right.
Got it. Do you have any other questions about any of the smattering of things that I shared with you?
No, and I like I should add that I like the energy and enthusiasm in the LEAP symbol, and I like the words that it stands for as an acronym. You know, I think it's great. I just, you know, I'm in favor of it.
I totally understand. I mean, it all takes tweaking, and, you know, we all come to it from different angles. And so to make sure that it really works, I was fully expecting this to go through a few little revisions before we're finally there.
How did you guys make this? Did you use Photoshop for this?
That's a Courtney question. I hope Courtney is able to answer. I think she works a lot with Canva.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how difficult it is to shrink or expand. I'm assuming, like with Photoshop, you can easily readjust the logo, hopefully.
Yeah, I can't imagine that that would be too difficult.
Right.
No, it should be fine. I think she should be able to make those changes with different font sizes and overall shrinking parts of it and making others bigger.
Oh, Courtney's talking to us in chat.
Oh, she is. Oh,
Let's see what she's saying.
I'm going to stop the share.
Oops, I don't know where it went, but I saw something from her.
Yeah, she said all valid concerns, yes, and she can readjust. She's in a car right now.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Courtney. Now I see it too. Okay. So she's able to make those changes.
Excellent.
Okay, I've already stopped sharing. I guess those were the big thing. The other big thing, obviously, is going to be Words and Wine, which we'll talk about in a minute. But that concludes my report.
Oh, thank you, Julia. Okay, then let's go on and hear from Ariane.
Hey y'all, I hope everyone's doing well. I apologize that my camera is off. The Wi-Fi at my house is extremely awful, and my brother and his spouse both go to school virtually, so Wi-Fi bandwidth is like a hot commodity. So I apologize about that. As far as diving deep into my report, I don't want to take too much time, but as far as the last couple months in the winter, we concluded our semesters with our service learners. We had a total of 5, and I had 4 out of 5 students complete a feedback survey. Everyone had some interest about continuing to volunteer for the foundation, which I thought was really great. I have reached out to a couple of those students and have meetings with 2 in the next week. Some of the other really cool data points that I saw was that all students were more prone to utilize the Monterey County Free Library services, and all of them signed up for a library card. They all learned something new about our library system, and we were able to give enough support. I got to meet all of them at the end of the semester, giving them just like a small gift of appreciation, and just let them know that for me personally, as they are making that transition out of school, I can help them out with things as far as like if they needed a recommendation or somebody to assist them with their resume. And then as far as planning for spring 2022, that's kind of been up in the air just because of Omicron, and trying to make sure that we give students the best possibilities in case that everything has to go into remote. So as you can see from that graph right there, I've kind of cataloged what in-person, hybrid, and virtual event volunteer opportunities would be. As of right now, I've only shared with students with the virtual ones, just because I would rather make sure that I can add on opportunities and not take them away. I just don't think that's fair. But other things about volunteer opportunities will definitely come up as we determine more things about Words and Wine. I apologize for my confusion with the board orientation stuff. I had just got from our last couple meetings that we were going forward with the LEAP rebranding. It sounds like more of just like y'all want to utilize the colors than a full-on name change. So I apologize about that and can fix those adjustments that I had made. But I have finished this really nice, very informational orientation presentation that Julie and I will hopefully be able to go through in the next week to finally like nail things down and to have either a virtual or in-person orientation meeting for Anisha and Louise and anybody else that who would like to join. If you go on Board Network, you'll notice 2 new folders. Under board documents, those are the recruitment folder and the board orientation, which as I mentioned earlier, I can make those changes to the prospective board member packet to better reflect what y'all's needs are. Julie and I did participate in the Salinas Chamber of Commerce block party. You'll see that small little photo of us. The overall goal was to get people to sign up for our newsletters and to receive donations through our MC gift campaigns. We were successful in at least getting 4 new signups, but did not receive any donations. But overall, it really didn't seem like any of the organizations received donations. So that was a little bit of a bummer, but definitely was a learning experience to get ready for these kind of tabling and outreach events, as well as great networking opportunities for future collaborations. So as I mentioned earlier with the Words and Wine, I have very specific roles I want to be able to give to students. And then if we have different opportunities available, depending on the format of our event, I thought a really good recruitment strategy would be to reach out to other volunteer organizations. For example, the Kiwanis Club of Marina, we have a connection with somebody in that organization that said that if we do have an in-person event, they'd be more than willing to give us a good bit of volunteers that could be used for like event setup, dining room attendance, and things like that as well. As far as my activities for next month, recruitment's going to be hitting the ground really heavy in the next week for the service learners. I actually got an email from a professor saying that she really liked the opportunities we were going to be offering for students next semester, and that we should be able to easily recruit 5 students from that. So that's a really good start. As soon as things get to a better formatting for Words and Wine, then I'll be able to create and update those resources for students, as well as host orientations for that as well, including the board one. But that's really all I have for right now. Do y'all have any questions?
Well, I think
no questions. Just sorry.
Okay.
No, I was just going to say no questions, but just thank you so much for all the work that you've put in. It's just really clarified a lot. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, you did a great. This is Kelly.
Oh, hey, Kelly.
You did a great job. So it's not, just because we didn't, we're tweaking it and the logos and stuff like that. We really appreciate all the work you guys have put into this.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I learned a lot about the board just by reading all your information and snippets.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, really? Did the board? So yeah,
I was like, oh wow,
very informative.
Absolutely. And the document that's on the screen right now, I really like that one. How is MCFL doing more? It looks great, along with the other things that you're doing.
Thank you.
Arian made this one for the tabling event because we were trying to tell people about the More grant and how through the MC Gives campaign, we were trying to help supplement those funds. And so she kind of did a little summary of what the grant is about.
Yeah, I think it looks great. It communicates very directly and well.
Arian, would you like to share your personal plans for the future too? Because I think this could be fun.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Oh, I was just wondering if you wanted to maybe share your personal plans for the future.
Oh, yeah, sure. As much as I would love to stay with the foundation, just given like looking at the budgets and things, I am aware that that is probably not possible. But since working alongside with the foundation and the libraries, I have decided that I would like to move forward into librarianship. So I'm super, super excited and just want to say thank you guys for giving me this opportunity. I feel very guided and supported as far as like what is next for me for the first time in a long time.
Oh, that's great.
Yay, we recruited someone to the library field.
Excellent. Well, and speaking of librarians, I think Hillary, you're up with the librarians report.
Okay, so I will try to hit the highlights that are not in the report. First, if anybody wants to know, the Big Sur fire that's burning now, we're cut off from our library because it started at night, but that area of Big Sur is not even actually evacuated. We just can't get to the library. So the library is closed until we can get to it. One advantage of moving us all onto county phones is we just changed the voicemail and then forwarded the phone to Prunedale. So anybody who tries to call the branch, the Prunedale library is going to answer their phone and be able to tell them what we can and can't do for them right now. But we're not worried at all about the branch at this moment. Knock on, if you guys have wood around you, knock on wood. Yeah, because half of me, like when that started, I actually found out from the staff before the county got their alert out, and half of me was like, no, I'm reading that wrong. We don't have no, I'm reading that wrong, but no, that wasn't. Our biggest hurdle right now is staffing. We just, we're having trouble hiring, and that's not even just us or the county, it's the nation, it's the state, it's, you know, we're going to do one more pass at our current list for library assistant and see if we can fill some more positions. In addition, we have the staff who are doing disaster service work, or they're out on leaves, or they have a potential COVID exposure and have to quarantine, can't come into work. So you may see branches that are closed unexpectedly, or you'll see a sign curbside only this morning. We just do it day to day, managing as best we can. So like the Carmel Valley branch was down to one person last week for one day. And so he did curbside only until a second person could come, because that branch is just too big to have one person be in charge of that whole building. So it's kind of just day by day, we manage the staffing as best we can. With you passing your budget, we can go back and look at the homework center staffing, because it is less money for the homework center coordinators. So I already pasted what you passed into an email to Allison and B and said, this is what was passed. Take a look, we'll set up a meeting, we'll talk about staffing fewer hours in the homework centers. Right now, there are days where we can't find someone to open the homework center, or we open it just sort of with the rest of the library. So we will retool and build accordingly the homework centers. So again, you may see a homework center closed, or the room closed, but maybe we're helping kids out on the, you know, we're never going to stop helping with homework. We're never going to say the homework center's closed, take your homework questions and go away. You know, it might just be more, there's not the separate room might not be open, or there's not someone there to sit at the tables with the kids and really help them. We're still looking at kind of what homework's going to look like the rest of this year too, because school is fluctuating so much. And we have so many, it's really interesting. In King City, they're reporting use of public computers is back up to normal. In Carmel Valley, everybody's bringing their own devices. You know, so it's almost neighborhood by neighborhood and branch to branch, kind of what changes are going to be permanent and what is going to go back. And so and then we have schools where they may quarantine a class or something like that, which changes who comes into the library. So it's really just kind of day by day we manage. The two libraries acting as testing sites, that's Castroville and Soledad. Castroville is the VITA program, and they're scrambling. They also have testers who can't come in because of potential exposures. And they're getting close to running out of testing kits. Like day by day, they just run out of tests. The Castroville staff is doing such an awesome job working with the VITA staff. We communicate a lot, help them along, but again, day to day, they may have to declare they're done testing early because they run out of kits. Soledad is an OptumServe, so it's funded by the state, run by the county, and they just upped their testing. It's drive-through outside, and it's now 6 days a week, 8 to 8. That's how much testing they need in Soledad. So they really appreciate the libraries being in the communities. So that's what's going on the testing sites. The Norse Bookmobile build is delayed. That's just, again, global supply chain parts issues. So they're waiting on more of the parts for the solar panels and the electrical system. The whole vehicle is there, the body is built, the shelving is ready, we've ordered. It's really the electrical, the solar panels and the electrical system and the batteries that work with that. They're waiting on parts. So we'll be going to the Board of Supervisors to extend their contract because they were supposed to be done in March. And I'm going to the California State Library to amend the grant because they were supposed to be done in March. And both have said, hey, it's a global supply chain. It's not like I can hustle something else up and snap my fingers and produce electrical components for a vehicle. So everybody understands. And then at maybe the next meeting, I'll bring something about National Library Week. What I've been trying to do, especially since a lot of these meetings are happening on Zoom, is not only do a county board item proclaiming National Library Week, but see if I can get some of the cities to do it too, that we serve at their city council meetings. So last year I got King City to do it. So my aim is to try to get 2 cities this year to before their city council proclaim National Library Week. So especially if you live in any of the cities we serve, or you know someone like on the city council, because sometimes I can't bring it. I have to ask a constituent to potentially call their elected representative and say, I think this would be a great idea.
We could try Marina.
Yeah.
Christina Medina Dirksen, who no longer is now at the Community Foundation. I don't know what she does now, but she is also on the Marina City Council, and she's always been very active in the Marina Friends group.
Yeah.
That would probably be a shoe-in, right?
Yeah, and I'll write it. I'll write it in whatever format the city wants it. I'll submit it through whatever process the city wants it. And my goal is just to start getting the cities we serve to say Monterey County Free Libraries and proclaim National Library Week. So I'll bring you something formal and more how this might work in February. And I'll bring you a draft proclamation to look at in February. So we're really day by day. So if you call us and we sound a little frantic, or you see us answer a cell phone in the middle of another meeting, it just means, like, I was in a meeting this morning and I got a call and, went mute, answered it, heard the first sentence and typed, gotta go, and ended my other meeting. So it's just the way we're working. But we are still open to the public. We're still no meeting rooms, no indoor programs. All of our organizational stuff is still on Zoom, and we're just handling things day by day as things change. Do you guys have any questions I can answer, or anything else you want updates on?
It just escaped me. I did have a question in regards to summer reading. What are the plans? We're getting closer to summer reading, and I know you have to book, and you just mentioned that there's probably not going to be any indoor programming. So maybe how is that going to affect summer reading? Do you have an idea?
Well, Allison, to prepare the variety of budgets she prepared for you, Allison and B thought it through both in person and virtual. And now they're thinking it through, what can we do outside? So for example, we're doing stay and play right now, which is outdoor programs. We're doing them on the lawn outside Seaside. So we're getting a good sense of how that site works. I know that Eddie is using the patio at Carmel Valley. So we were waiting on how much funding we have. So you've passed your budget. Now we know, but I know that Allison was looking for, if we pay a performer, is it somebody who can work outside or distanced or on Zoom? And I've told the staff, and I wish I had a crystal ball. I don't, but I've basically said, I cannot imagine us gathering a big group indoors before June at this point in the library. So I suspect, and I'll have a meeting with them and see where they're at. If we do in person, it's gonna be outdoors. Yeah. So, and we're doing great work with the story walks, where there's something that we do where the kids can sit far apart from each other. And then there's an activity bag. They can sit and open it there on the lawn. They could take it home. And there's a story walk to walk around the lawn, the park. Now, obviously not all branches have outdoor facilities. So we're gonna have to do our very, very best for those other branches and see what's going on. So yeah,
Hillary,
I think,
I have a question. Before the pandemic, I used to see a lot of kids coming to the Castroville Library after school to get their homework solved, but also to stay indoors just because their parents were at work. So what happened with all those kids? I think with all of these restrictions that are happening in our libraries, what is going to happen with those families that they are having their kids roaming?
You know, Castroville is still getting kids who come in. What Dave has been telling me is they come in, they do what they need, and then they go. So instead of just, we're all going to come in, we're going to gather together, we're going to hang out on the computers. He said he's really seen just, I'm here for this. I need to use a computer. I need to make a copy. I need to get this. And then they go. As long as the weather's nice, the plaza is just beautiful. And you'll see a lot of people sitting on those benches on the plaza. We can have them stay. We have some restrictions, like we wouldn't let 10 people jam up together at a table. We'd say, but the computers are open, the tables and chairs are open. We don't have a lot of the soft toys out like we used to have stuffed in. Those we put away because we don't know, we can't effectively clean them between people the way you can wipe down. But the libraries are open, and we're working real hard to not have to close and go to curbside again. Yeah. And it's really, each community is looking a little different. Marina's jammed full. People come in and stay all day. Carmel Valley, the older folks, they said it's come in, get your stuff, leave. And a lot of people are bringing their own devices and sitting on the patio. Castroville, it's not the own devices, but people are coming in, achieving mission and leaving. You know, King City, like I said, their use of public computers is back up to normal. So it's all over the map in terms of the patterns.
Thanks.
And then I see Kelly's question. For the library, I just am telling the staff, you need to think a larger size group that is not like one big family who already lives together. And I'm leaving it up to them as to what they consider that. So some libraries with very crowded seating they'll only put 3 chairs at a table that could hold 6, for example, to just kind of space out. And then I say it's for an extended period of time. The Cal OSHA, which regulates our workplace. So Cal OSHA's definition of a potential exposure is over 15 minutes within 6 feet within a 24-hour period. So for staff, I'm saying you keep that definition in mind. So kind of sitting next to somebody, helping them with the computer for 5 minutes, you're both masked. you're within 6 feet, but you're both wearing your face covering and it's not an extended period of time, is different than let's have a meeting and all sit in the study room together for an hour. So, and it really is, yeah, and meeting rooms, it's two things. One is right now the county would make every person sign an individual liability waiver to come to a meeting room. And I'll be honest, we don't want to deal with the hassle. Can you imagine like standing at the door and be like, you have to sign this, you have to sign this. And we can't control that space readily from the library. So we're saying no, unless it's a county agency and they need us. So like we went ahead and set up with voting. If we have an MOU with an agency, we already have an MOU that basically says we train you, you take on liabilities. So Alliance on Aging and United Way is setting up tax prep, and we have agreements with them already. Now, they're going to actually work individually on the library floor separated versus using the meeting room. So, do we reserve them a study room? Other groups that ask, generally, I'm the one that has a talk with them and I say, tell me your needs, how many, how long, what are you doing? Can your folks sign these individual liability waivers? I'll get them to, and we work case by case. In some cases, the Brown Act, which governs public bodies, as you know, I know many of you know the Brown Act. So the emergency provision that let you do everything on Zoom ended. So now a Brown Act body has to meet every 30 days and do a certification, something declaring that due to the pandemic, they can meet on Zoom. But they have to have a physical meeting place to have that meeting. So in some cases, all they need is that physical meeting place to do that administrative thing. And it's going to be one person and any member of the public that chooses to show up because they're a Brown Act body. The county can accommodate all the county ones. They do them in government center. But I assisted one person, and when I explained about the liability waiver, I said, that's a county requirement. I cannot let you out of that. They were exploring many spaces, but they basically had to have a physical place that somebody could go to satisfy the Brown Act. But they said most people are going to be on Zoom. So I'm happy to have conversations with groups. And again, it's all over the map. We have groups that need an in-person meeting because people can't get on Zoom. We have groups that need an in-person meeting for the Brown Act. We have groups that need an in-person place because they're physically, like tax prep, they're handing materials back and forth. So I talk to them individually before we say we can let you use one of our meeting rooms.
Any other questions for Hillary? Okay, thanks. And gosh, thanks to all your staff and all that they're doing. There's so much that has to be done. Thank you. Let's move on to Words and Wine, Julia.
Words and Wine, here we go. So Erin and I have done a lot of behind the scenes work. I feel like so much has changed since our last meeting in November when it comes to Words and Wine. I mean, at that point, I felt very strongly that we could definitely pull off an in-person event, if I'm very honest, especially considering how I'm feeling today. I'm not so sure at this point that April 30th would be the best idea for an in-person event. So whenever we did go to Palma School, we kind of worked out a potential secondary option where everyone could sit outside, but it's going to be cold. I talked to 2 different providers that come from different angles to help us maybe bring a virtual aspect or fully make it virtual. So the one person that I spoke to is a local videographer by the name of Michael Buffo. And his focus is strictly helping with the video part. So he has offered us 3 different ways on how we could turn this into a virtual or hybrid meeting or event. So the most hands-off version, which I am not a fan of, just to let you know, is where basically we pre-record all the different pieces for the event, and he would help us make these videos, and he would then stitch them together. And it would then just be that he would click a button, and at a certain time, you can then watch this being streamed, but there's no way to really interact with our supporters and our donors. And so I feel like I'm not so much a fan of that, but it could be a way to hold an event if, you know, we don't want to really interact with anyone. So then the middle of the road option that he also talked about is that it could be still mostly virtual, but those few brave souls that wanted to show up could show up at the event, and that he would then film it and live stream it via YouTube. Now on the back end, that means that we put on the full in-person event with the catering, with setting up the tables, with cleaning the tables, with setting up the auction. And then in addition to that, have that live streamed. So that's another option. Yeah, it's even more work than the in-person event. So I have to admit that even though in theory, the idea of having a hybrid event sounded great, Arian and I looked at the staffing needs and at the potential costs. It's actually more than the in-person event.